Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtikim Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. We are reading from Canto 2, Chapter 8, entitled Questions by King Parikshit, text 24. I will share my screen. Sarvametaccha Bhagavan Pritchato me nupurvashah Tattvator Rahasi Uddhahritam Prapannaya Mahamune. Sarvametaccha Bhagavan Pritchato me nupurvashah Tattvator Uddhahritam Prapannaya Mahamune. Sarvametaccha Bhagavan Pruchato me nupurvashah tattvatorhasi udhahritam prapannaya mahamune. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questioning. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Purport. The spiritual master is always prepared to impart knowledge to the disciple, and specifically when the disciple is very inquisitive. Inquisitiveness on the part of a disciple is greatly necessary for the progressive disciple. Maharaj Parikshit is a typical disciple because he is perfectly inquisitive. If one is not very inquisitive about self-realization, one need not approach a spiritual master simply to make a show of discipleship. Not only is Maharaj Parikshit inquisitive concerning all he has inquired about, but he is also anxious to know about what he has not been able to inquire. Actually, it is not possible for a man to inquire about everything from the spiritual master, but the bona fide spiritual master is able to enlighten the disciple in every way for the disciple's benefit. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Nitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. Read the translation once again. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. This is very interesting verse. Here, this verse is similar to 2.7 Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna says about Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava pruchhami tvam dharma sammuda cheta yachreyasyan nischitam bruhitan me sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. There also this same thing is used. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, let me open the text 2.7, then you will see that. Yeah, this one. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. So this is the sentence I was saying. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So the same thing we are also seeing. So the same sentence in 2.7 that we see, I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. This same mood has been is being carried by Parikshit Maharaj also when he asks this question. He is saying, since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Of course, Parikshit Maharaj and Arjuna's positions may appear a little different to us because Arjuna was mostly asking from the perspective of whether I should fight or not. And Parikshit Maharaj is in a little different condition. Now you see the connection between Arjuna and Parikshit also. Arjuna is the grandfather of Parikshit Maharaj. And Krishna is so merciful that he used two of the same family members, Arjuna and Parikshit, one to deliver Bhagavad Gita and the other to deliver Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So Krishna has special affection not only to the devotees individually, but all to the entire family members. We have another example. Right? The example is of Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj is a disciple of Prahlad. And at the time when Narsingadev appeared and he killed Hiranyakashipu, at that time, he actually delivers Prahlad Maharaj and he gives a promise to Prahlad that, your 21 generations are liberated. Not only that, he also says that, he will not kill any of his family members further. Right? And when he came as Vamandev, he remembers that promise. And he says he did not kill Bali Maharaj, rather he liberated Bali Maharaj. Right? He gave this Sutala planet to Bali Maharaj, and then we all know Bali will be the future Indra. When the current Indra is going to complete his tenure, then Bali Maharaj will become the next Indra. So here also we see the same thing, that Krishna showing mercy to the family members of a pure devotee. Right? So whether it is liberating the 21 generations or whether it is showing special mercy to Bali Maharaj, in both cases is the same. Similarly, we see the example of Kaliya's wives. Right? They were great devotees of the Lord, just like Prahlad. And they were great devotees of the Lord. By seeing them, he showed mercy to Kaliya also. Of course, Kaliya was not a devotee at that time, but we see that even Bali was not a devotee. Not like Parikshit Maharaj. In the case of Parikshit Maharaj, it is different. Arjuna was a great devotee and Parikshit also was a great devotee. But in the case of Prahlad and Bali, we see that initially Prahlad was a great devotee. Bali later became, by his surrender, he became a great devotee. Similarly, in the case of Kaliya also, Kaliya was not at all, he was envious of Krishna. He wanted to kill Krishna. But still, Krishna, because he was very favorably disposed towards the wives of Kaliya, Kaliya also got the chance to glorify Krishna, chance to become a devotee of Krishna. So this connection with pure devotee is very important in our lives. So in all our lives, this pure devotee comes in the form of our spiritual master. Right? He comes and he gives us that connection. When we go to any temple, in the foreign countries, it is a different case. There, this archana and all are not. They are done in some temples, but it is not very popular. But in India, it is very popular. You all know that. Like when any temple you go, you want to do the, tell the gotra, tell the name, and then, then they will say Kshemas Thairya Vijaya Ayura Arogya Aishwarya Abhivriddhirastu, that they say. So after we get initiated, when we go to the temple, I have been trying to do this quite, whenever I visit to temples, that we all know our Gotra is Achyuta Gotra, right? And then we speak the name of Srila Prabhupada or Radhanath Maharaj or Jaipatak Maharaj or Romapad Maharaj, whoever is our spiritual master. We just tell their name because they through them we got the spiritual connection, right? So he becomes the head of our family. Srila Prabhupada is the eldest of all ISKCON family, right? He is the grandfather for all of us, and he has several jewel-like sons. All are acting as spiritual masters in today ISKCON society. And if I am disciple of a particular spiritual master, and the other spiritual masters disciples become my cousins, and other spiritual masters become my uncles, right? So it's a big family in that sense. That's why when we are offering prayers in the morning, say Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. All the spiritual masters we are offering respects, right? Why? Because we are all spiritually connected. We are all same family, right? We are all belonging to the same Achyuta Gotra, right? So in this way, we see Parikshit Maharaj and Arjuna, because of their connection, and not only that, because of course these two are a special case because both of them are pure devotees since the beginning, right? In the other cases, as I mentioned, it's a little different. Krishna showed special mercy to the family members because of their connection with a pure devotee. Here Arjuna is a pure devotee, and Parikshit Maharaj is also a pure devotee. We see that in the earlier chapters where birth of Parikshit, in that chapter we see that Parikshit was naturally attracted to the worship of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna's mercy is upon those who are completely surrendered to them, to him, and his mercy comes in very inconceivable ways, right? In the case of Arjuna, this all discussion as I'm speaking, this all came because of this last sentence. I am soul surrendered unto you, right? Arjuna surrendered in the same way, but he was surrendering when he was on a battlefield, and Parikshit is surrendering because he is on the battlefield of life, right? Because he is about to give up his body in some time from here, and Arjuna was not knowing what was his duty, and that's why he surrendered to Krishna. And here also, Parikshit Maharaj appears in the same situation that I don't know what is my duty. Please instruct me. That is where Bhagavatam actually started. He was asking about what are the duties of a dying man and what are the duties of person in general in this world. Right? In both cases, Krishna actually either he answered that question personally in the case of Bhagavad Gita, or he arranged a pure devotee to answer these questions in the form of Shukdev Goswami here in Srimad Bhagavatam. But in any case, Krishna sticks to his promise. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse? He says, Tesham evanu kampardham aham agnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto nanadipena bhasvatha. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogantam yenamam upayantite. So in these verses, Krishna says that he himself personally comes to deliver the devotee out of ignorance. So Krishna is just fulfilling his promise that he has given in Bhagavad Gita, by arranging the association of Sukadeva Goswami for Parikshit Maharaj at the right time. So Parikshit Maharaj is going through this great challenge in one sense. If we were in that situation, many times we hear this in our ISKCON that if you were put in the situation of Parikshit Maharaj, what would you do? Are we surrendering? Are we asking for, okay, what is my bank balance? How much should I distribute it to my children? My wife, my mother, my father? Or are we thinking about how are these people going to treat me in the next 7-8 days? Are we thinking about? I remember once when I was in Chennai long ago, we had the opportunity to associate with one of the Prabhupada's disciple. I think it was Vishaka Mataji. So she was actually, no, not Vishaka Mataji. I don't remember her name. She's a very great author, and she writes. She developed a whole curriculum for children children, Krishna consciousness. Urmila Mataji, yes. So Urmila Mataji, who is a very great disciple of Srila Prabhupada, she gave us an exercise. The exercise was, imagine you died today and you are writing your own obituary, right? Like people write that newspapers, right? Small space, they write that this so and so person has died and these are his achievements and whatever. She said, please write your obituary yourself. This is an exercise. And it should not be more than half a page, because generally that's what it is, right? It's not like they fill the entire newspaper with all the great deeds that a person has done. It's only a small page. It's a half a page, basically half a A4 sheet. And in that exercise, after writing, she told that this is all you have achieved in your life, that's all. So it was shocking to us. After doing the exercise, this is all we have achieved. But in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, or in the case of any pure devotee, it's a different thing. They actually show the way to the people in general on how to give up this body, how to surrender to Krishna. And they show it by their example. Otherwise, there is no hope for us, right? We cannot actually, if we don't have the example of Parikshit Maharaj, this is how one has to leave this world, we will be in a bewildered state, right? Because of the mercy of Parikshit Maharaj, at least we have an ideal to see, to look after, to look up to. This is what we want to be, right? Otherwise, any great devotee you see, and when I came to ISKCON in the very initial days, I heard of the passing away of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And after Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj passed away, that was, I think, 1 year I came to ISKCON, and after that Maharaj left this world. At that time, I heard a long lecture by his very close friend and my spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, a very long lecture. And in that lecture, Maharaj was saying, like, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj passing away is no less than Bhishma's passing away. Right? And at that time, it was difficult for me to comprehend, because I did not even know how Bhishma left this world. It was all very difficult. But over a period of time, I understood, these great souls, when they leave this world, they actually, that's not like any ordinary man leaving this world. They are going to show the whole world on how to leave this world, right? And Arjuna's situation was such that he was showing us how to live in this world. Right? He was fighting. He was on the battlefield. He did not know what the outcome was. In the battle, there is always equal chance for both the parties to win as well as lose. He might have lost his life, and many times it was just about to happen, and Krishna always intervened to protect him. Right? If it was not for Krishna, it is impossible for Pandavas to win. There is no chance, right? There is no chance. Even if you calculate materially, it's impossible. And interestingly, we see in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita also that when Duryodhana is, the first few slokas of Bhagavad Gita, Duryodhana mentions about, what is on our side, what is on Pandava's side, how is my army so great, how is Pandava's army so less. This is kind of comparison he does. But interestingly, he doesn't name Krishna anywhere. He doesn't consider Krishna on the side of Pandavas, because it was a material calculation. He was thinking like, okay, if Krishna is there also, what is the use? He is not going to fight. So this is material calculation, right? But then the spiritual calculation is different. On the other side, Arjuna was thinking that, whether someone is there or not with me, Krishna, you are there with me, that's sufficient. Whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. Whether I gain the kingdom or not, it doesn't matter. Whether it is victory or failure, it doesn't matter. You are on my side, that is my success. That's a devotee's calculation. That's a spiritual calculation, right? On the other hand, Duryodhana's calculation was like, this person is so powerful. Dronacharya was powerful. Bhishma was powerful. So these are powerful people who are on my side. So this kind of calculation he was doing. So this is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee, actually, right? So devotee's success is in pleasing Krishna. Non-devotee has so many venues where he thinks that success is waiting him, but then what is waiting any person in this world is death only, right? There is nothing else waiting for us. So we are all, we come with an expiry date. We take birth with an expiry date, right? Just like any medicine, we also expire after some time. And what remains in this world after that is nothing related to us. Maybe 2 generations after we die, people may remember us. Even if we are very, philanthropic, if we have done something great in this world, then people may remember for 2 generations at the max. After that, we become irrelevant, right? Nobody cares whether we existed or not. Just like, if I ask, like, what is the name of, great grandfather of any one of you, maybe 4 generations before you. Maybe you know the name, but we don't know anything about that person, right? Our condition is also going to be the same. And that is why these questions that Parikshit Maharaj is asking in this entire chapter are very, very relevant. So, Athato Brahma Jigyasa is a Vedic aphorism. It says that human life is meant for inquiry. What kind of inquiry will decide what is the quality of our life? Inquiry everyone is doing, right? It's not that lower living entities like animals and birds, they don't inquire. They also inquire, right? But their inquiry is pertaining to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's all. They don't inquire about Brahma Jigyasa. That's not there. So the kind of inquiry will decide our future. So basically here, Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring so many things after hearing Brahma's instructions to Narada in the previous chapter 2.7, scheduled incarnations, specific purposes. In that chapter, Brahma speaks elaborately about so many incarnations. And at the end, he concludes to Narada saying that, Krishna spoke to me this entire Srimad Bhagavatam in a very small, short form. And I am imparting that knowledge to you. You go and expand that. That's what he says, right, towards the end of the previous chapter. After hearing that, Parikshit Maharaj also asks questions to Sukadeva Goswami. Here, one more important lesson for all of us to learn is that if we think that we are not inquisitive enough, because inquisitiveness is what is very important in the path of spiritual life. So 4.32 Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tadvitti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninah tattvadarshinaha. So that is one has to be pariprashnena sevaya, submissively inquire from the spiritual master. That's what Krishna actually emphasizes. Now, this inquisitiveness, if we think that it is not there with us, we associate with those who are inquisitive. Then our inquisitiveness also increases. Just like after hearing Brahma's instructions or Brahma's teachings to Narada in the previous chapter, Parikshit Maharaj became inquisitive, right? So similarly, when we see that any other devotees are being inquisitive, like Prabhupada actually writes in that purport. Let me just open that 4.32. Absurd inquiry, and there are 2 things Prabhupada uses. Anyone remembers that? That's very popular. 434, I guess. Yeah, Tadviti Pranipatena. This, this thing, both blind following and absurd inquiry are condemned here, right? In this verse, blind following is condemned and absurd inquiries are also condemned. So that means we should know what to ask for. When we go to a particular person, we should know what to ask for. What is the right thing to ask? Otherwise, everybody can, as I said, everybody is inquiring several things, right? A businessman is also inquiring how to increase my money, how to make profits and all this. Similarly, a student is also inquiring, okay, what will be my future career path and all. These are all okay. These are all good. To live happy life in this world, but then ultimate inquiry should be directed towards how can I get out of this world, right? So we should all understand that we are living in a jail, and materialistic civilization is actually focused upon making this jail a better place, right? Or if we say, jail is something that we always hear about. Jail example is always we hear about. We can give one more example, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave this example. He said this material world is like a toilet, right? Go inside, do your business and come out. Don't try to stay there. that's what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj told, that we don't want to stay here and okay, now this toilet is smelling bad, so let me put some nice perfume and all. or let me clean this toilet, make it very sparkling clean. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's a toilet, right? So he says that don't try to live, make your residence inside a toilet. It's a place meant for going, finishing your business, and coming back, right? So similarly, we should also understand that this world is like a toilet. We should stay here as long as we have the business of fulfilling the purpose of our life, and the purpose of our life is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Inquire, get the right answers, approach the right person, get the right answers, get out of this world. So I know one very big what do we call? I had a colleague in my laboratory when I was working in the US. He's a big man in his area, actually. He's a big researcher. When I had a discussion with him, I was speaking about the purpose of life. The immediate response from him was a shock on his face. Purpose of life? There is no purpose of any life. This is the answer he said. Then I understood, Bapre, it's such a, people live in such a grand illusion, thinking that there is nothing beyond this material body or the subtle mind, right? There is nothing beyond that. So the purpose of life, people don't even acknowledge that there is a purpose of life. They think that there is no purpose. We are just living as a bunch of atoms and molecules. That's all, right? But here, Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring. I tried to put all these, questions raised by Parikshit Maharaj in a slide. Basically, these are all the translations that that this chapter contains. So let me please share that. Stop this and share that for a moment. So it's not like I have created this PPT. I just copy pasted all the translations what I see in this chapter. What kind of questions Parikshit Maharaj is asking, that's what I want to focus upon. So let me put it in. Do I maximize this?
Slideshow mode, Prabhu. Yeah.
So here, Parikshit Maharaj is actually, these are all the questions that Parikshit Maharaj spoke. So I'm not going to go through everything, but I would like to say the fifth verse is the base verse for the entire, the basis for the entire chapter. Here he is saying the sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the supreme soul, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon the pools of muddy water. Pravishta karna randrena swanam bhavasaroruham dhunoti shamalam Krishna salilasya yatha sharat. That's the verse. So here he's saying, because all these questions, if we see, we are going to go through some of the questions. All these questions are in connection with Krishna, right? And that's why Parikshit Maharaj is asking these questions. Otherwise, it seems like, some of the materialists also ask these questions. I will show some of the questions. They also ask same questions, and they also try to find answers. And in fact, with the advancement of modern civilization, science and technology, the modern man appears to answer some of these questions also. Some of these, not all, very few of them. But then that is not in connection with Krishna. In fact, those questions are answered with the purpose of removing Krishna from the picture. And that's why those answers do not satisfy our heart. Rather, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, these same questions are answered with the purpose of establishing Krishna, in the words of Srila Prabhupada, establishing Krishna as an irrevocable fact in the heart of a living entity. And that's why these questions actually purify us. So let's go to see some of those questions. So from here, the questions start. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental spirit soul is different from the material body. Does he acquire the body accidentally or by some cause? Here, the cause and effect is being questioned. Why do a living entity get a material body? Will you kindly explain this, for it is known to you? This is one question. And then another question. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement. Then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of the common living entities? Now he's saying, okay, you explained about Virat Purusha in the previous chapters. So what is the difference? And you said that, this is the first step of self-realization, the first chapter of second canto, actually. First step on God realization. And you explained that this is the material form of Krishna, right? This whole universe is nothing but the body of the Virata Purusha, which is an imaginary form, but it is very good for the beginners to meditate upon. This is how Bhagavatam presents it. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking the question, okay, what is the specific difference? He also appears to have material form. I also have a material body. So what is the difference between these two? How is Lord different from us? So that's the question also. Then he says, Brahma, who was not born of material source, but of the lotus flower coming out of the navel abdomen of the Lord, is the creator of all those who are materially born. Of course, by the grace of Lord, Brahma was able to see the form of the Lord. This is in connection with the last chapter where Brahma actually says this to Narada. Then please also explain the personality of Godhead who lies in everyone's heart every heart as super soul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy. So here he is asking, we are all being touched by the material energy, right? But how does super soul, who is also living in the heart of every living entity, is not touched by his own external energy? So that is another question. Again, this is in connection with the previous thing which I said, like, how is Lord not being touched by the his material expansion? So that is there. Then he asks, O learned Brahmana, it was formally explained that all the planets of the universe with their respective governors are situated in different parts of gigantic body of Virata Purusha. You also heard that different planetary systems are supposed to be in the gigantic body of Virat Purusha. But what is their actual position? Will you please explain? So here I try to summarize this position of planets and their controllers in connection with the Virat Purusha. That's what he's asking. He's asking about, okay, they are all existing as different parts of the body of the Virat Purusha, which is the material form of the Lord. So what is their connection? Are they eternal or are they temporary also? So what is the difference between them and the Supreme Lord? So he's asking that. Then also please explain the duration of time between creation and annihilation and that of the other subsidiary creations, as well as the nature of time indicated by the sound of past, present, and future. Also, please explain the duration of measurement of life of different living beings known as the demigods, human beings, etc., different planets of the universe. So basically, he's asking about the relativity of time in different regions and different sects of living entities, right? So Prabhupada gives this example of the insects that are born in the rainy season. The night they are born, and by the morning they are dead and gone, right? So their entire 100 years happens in that span of the night. So after the sun sets, before the sun rises, they see only darkness around them. That's all. For in that span only, they actually go through all the 6 changes, Shadvikar that we call, right? They are born, they are growing, they are having byproducts, they are maintaining themselves, they are dwindling, they are dying. All these changes actually happen within the night. Now Prabhupada, of course, gives this in the connection with saying that such living beings may claim that there is no sun doesn't exist because they don't see that, right? But are they true? Are they, is it factual that sun doesn't exist? Similarly, he says that, different living entities are living, the time scales are different. Different activities happen at different time scales, right? Compared to Brahma's life, Indra's life is insignificant. And compared to Indra's life, our life is insignificant. Similarly, compared to our life, the Indragopa, the small insect, its life is insignificant, right? Kita is a small insect. Its life is insignificant. So we all live on different time scales. It seems, as I said just some time ago, that science seems to have answered these questions in a minute extent, right? So today science also accepts that time changes differently in different parts of the universe. They say the space-time mesh that is existing in the entire creation, the theory of relativity and all these things actually are connected to this in one sense. They seem to have answered this. But this theory of relativity has bewildered more people than actually answering the questions. That's what I was saying. Because these questions are answered by the modern science by taking away Krishna from the picture. They are not answered in connection to Krishna, right? The answers in the Srimad Bhagavatam given by Shukadeva Goswami and translated by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, they are the same. I mean, the questions are similar, but the answers are given in connection to Krishna. How Krishna is actually manifesting through all these different energies, because of which it gets a spiritual nature. This is just like our life also. In our life, imagine Krishna. Our life minus Krishna. Is there anything valuable in that life? There is nothing. It's like a dead body. I mean, Bhagavatam also gives the example of decoration on a dead body, right? So it is similar to that. Even I may have multiple PhDs. I may have done great. I may have received some Nobel prizes and all, but still, all these great achievements minus Krishna is useless. Prabhupada says that these are all big zeros. Every achievement is a zero, because at the time of death everything is taken away. Then what are you left with? Nothing, right? So it is like that. So let me read further. O purest of Brahmanas, please also explain the cause of the different durations of time, both short and long, as well as the beginning of time following the course of action. So time and its origin are also being questioned by Parikshit Maharaj. So where does the time start? It seems like scientific questions, right? Those which are being recently the Nobel prizes have been awarded this year. So some of the physics Nobel prizes are belonging to those. Those who are working in quantum mechanics, micro quantum mechanics, or something like that. Those were the people who received Nobel Prize this year in physics. Similarly, in chemistry, in biology, so many different Nobel laureates have emerged again this year. Another set of people. But then, what is the use of? It's a great achievement, definitely. From a material standpoint, it's something that people actually look forward for. People want to get this, but at the same time, if we understand from the perspective of the scriptures, if we understand from the perspective of great souls like Parikshit Maharaj, what were his achievements? He was able to drive away Kali. That's a great achievement, right? But then, at the time of death, he just surrendered everything to the Lord, and he actually was the cause of all of us hearing Srimad Bhagavatam today. Similarly, we see the example of Bharat Maharaj. It is said like he gave up everything, just like a person passes stool and he doesn't even look at it. He just walks away from there, right? Similarly, he gave, when in the prime of his youth, he was able to give up all his kingdom, everything, right? Of course, later what happened was a different story, but then that's a great achievement, right? So Parikshit Maharaj, Bharat Maharaj, these are all great examples for us, who are able to, like you see Kardama Muni, what kind of example he is. I mean, these Nobel prizes and all appear to be, in front of their achievements, it appears to be insignificant, what today's people are achieving in terms of material progress. And again, if these things are done, if this material progress is carried out with a desire to remove Krishna from the picture, then it becomes even more uglier. Right? So it's like that. Then again, kindly describe how the proportionate accumulation of reactions resulting from the different modes of material nature act upon the desiring living being, promoting or degrading him among the different species of life, beginning from the demigod down to the most insignificant creature. So he's asking about how does the karma act. So that is one more question. Again, people are also trying to answer these questions again from the scientific perspective also, but they are trying to answer without Krishna. O best of Brahmanas, please also describe how the creation of the globes throughout the universe, 4 directions, heaven, sky, planets, stars, mountains, rivers, seas, and islands, as well as their different kinds of inhabitants take place. So he's asking about how the Prakriti came about. So if you see, these questions are also like what Prabhupada explains in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. In the introduction, he writes Bhagavad Gita deals with 5 subjects. What are they? Like the Supreme Personality of God, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. These questions also appear to be very similar. Right? So then here he is asking, also please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific division, as well as the character of the activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of different classifications of castes and orders of the social life. So here he is asking, like, how are the divisions in this? How are the divisions existing in this society, and how are devotees transcendental to these divisions? That's why although it appears, if you see, as well as the character and activities of the great soul, this appears to be a misfit here in one sense. The first one is related to the universe, second one is related to the third one is related to the castes and orders, but the middle one, he's asking about the great souls. That's mainly to show how these devotees are transcendental, right? Similarly, again, the question about influence of time, social orders, here is asking, kindly explain all about the elementary principles of creation. This is like our microscopic quantum mechanics. It's like that, number of such elementary principles, their cause, their development, and also the process of devotional service and the method of the mystic powers. This is Sankhya, as explained by Kapila, actually. This is a theistic Sankhya. And then he is trying to understand how these are actually connected to the Ishvara and Jiva, right? And the connection between Ishvara and Jiva can be two-way. One is the Jiva can connect to Ishvara through material nature, right? So that is the first step in God realization. That is through understanding the happenings of this universe. The second is, when in an advanced state, Jiva can connect to the Supreme Lord through the internal potency of the Lord. That is pure devotional service. So that is also being asked. Then he's also asking about, yogi's realization and the Vedic knowledge. All these things are being asked by Parikshit Maharaj. Please explain unto me how the living beings are generated, how they are maintained, how they are annihilated. So, what are the advantages, disadvantages of discharging devotional service? So these all questions are going to be answered by Shukadeva Goswami, not on his own. He is quoting different previous acharyas or previous teachings. Like, for example, the Sankhya is going to be answered by Shukadeva Goswami through the teachings of Kapila in the third canto, right? So similarly, so many other things are going to be addressed by Shukadeva Goswami in different ways. So that is the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, actually. Please also explain how merged in the body of the Lord living beings are created and how the infidels appear in this world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. So he's asking about Nitya Mukta, Nitya Baddha, and Sadhana Siddha. So different types of living entities he's asking. And finally, we come to today's verse. Where is this? The independent personality of Godhead enjoys his pastimes by internal potency, and at the time of annihilation gives them up to the external potency, and he remains a witness to it all. So after this, he comes to this question: "O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you, and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questions." So here, this is very important, where he's saying, I may not have inquired certain things from you. So this shows humility of Parikshit Maharaj. He says that, my inquiry is, I think that I'm asking so many questions and I am great. No, it's not like that. I may have missed out so many things which are beyond my understanding. I don't even know that I have to question those things. Please answer those questions also. That's the humility of Parikshit Maharaj. He is exhibiting that humility. And that's why, if you see Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, Krishna actually says about the elements of knowledge. 8 to 12, 5 verses, he speaks about the 20 elements of knowledge. The first and foremost is amanitvam, humility. Right? Humility is the basic requirement, necessity to understand spiritual knowledge. Unless we accept that we don't know anything, we cannot understand anything, right? So basically, I was hearing this example from one of my friends who was also preaching. So he asked one of his, one of the members to whom he was preaching, that, Prabhu, how humble do you think yourself are? This is something which we have to ask to ourselves. Nobody expects an answer for this, right? And this person told my friend that, Prabhu, I am very humble actually. I have a track record of being very humble. See, I always go and ask devotees anything that I want to ask in a very humble way. I request them, I please them, I plead them, I beg them. I am very humble. This is the kind of reply he gave. Actually, I'm not saying that, you have to answer me this question, but you try to ask this question to yourself. How humble are we? is our humility sufficient to attract Lord's mercy so we gain knowledge about spiritual life? Because the first and foremost principle Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita to gain knowledge is humility, right? So are we humble enough to attract Lord mercy so we can get, and unless we get Lord's mercy, as I was quoting in the beginning, Tesham evanu kampardham aham agnanajam tamaha. Krishna is saying that I remove the darkness from the heart of living entity out of my compassion, out of my own mercy, right? Aham agnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. I light the light of knowledge. That's what Krishna is saying. But the requirement for this is, I mean, the necessary condition for this to happen is that we become humble. If our humility is not attracting the Lord's mercy, then this aham agnanajam tamaha, these things are not going to happen, right? That Krishna is not going to remove the cloud of darkness. He is going to let that cloud of darkness be there. So we learn some lesson, right? So basically, this is some question that this is one question that we always have to ask ourselves. Are we humble enough to attract Lord's mercy? So I will end today's class with one very interesting statement that I heard from my spiritual master. So a similar incident that happened, like one devotee was approaching my spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, very, in a very humble way. And Maharaj immediately could recognize something wrong in this devotee's heart. And he spoke a statement, which is something which became an object of my meditation for so many years now. Maharaj said, don't become proud of your humility. So this is something which I have been working upon. There is a long way to go. But then Maharaj was saying this statement, don't be proud of your humility. Sometimes we become humble. After coming to spiritual life, we understand, okay, I don't know anything. But we become humble, and in the course of becoming humble, we become proud of our humility also. You see how humble I am? I am very, very humble soul. And because of which Lord will shower His mercy upon me. This kind of attitude doesn't attract any mercy, right? We have to be genuinely humble, right? So there is one more statement which I heard from my spiritual master. He says that there is a genuine humility and there is false humility, and the gap between these two things is nothing but a devotee's. He says something. I'm paraphrasing this. There is false humility and there is genuine humility, and the difference or the distance between these two things is nothing but the devotees truly wanting to be humble, something like that. His genuinity is what actually brings humility, right? Genuinely wanting to be humble. I really want to be humble, but I don't know how to be humble. This is also some prayer that we have to pray in front of the Lord, actually. My dear Lord, all the great souls are saying that I cannot get any knowledge unless I become humble. But I am such a fool that I don't know how to be humble, right? So please give me this realization of how can I be humble and how can I attract Lord's mercy. This kind of prayer actually helps us in our spiritual life. Otherwise, if we think that, okay, I am really genuinely humble, I am 70% or 80% of the situations I deal with, I am always very humble. Now, this is like, being proud of our humility, actually. So one has to be very careful in trying to uproot these, subtle weeds in our heart, so we can actually progress in the path of our spiritual life. So with this, I will close today's discussion. If anyone has any questions or comments, please go ahead. And if you think that I have spoken anything wrong or any mistake you have observed in my talk, please correct me. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. This is Amrita Kelidasi.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Mataji. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Mataji. I will hear you. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Thank you so much. It's so happy to hear from you after a long time. Many, many beautiful things you have shared. Very inspiring. This last thing, don't be proud of your humility. That was really sweet. And it somehow is resonating with last evening we had this fortune of hearing from His Grace Amrendra Prabhu's lecture here at Naperville. So Prabhu is highlighting this aspect. Even if we are not able to do anything, just bowing down, fall down before Krishna, and then so he can uplift us. So it was very beautiful to hear that again. And the other thing which really attracted me is at the beginning of the class, you were mentioning about how Krishna's assurance to even non-devotees just because of their family members' devotion. So
Yes.
somehow this inspiration came as you're speaking. I don't think I can become devotee in this lifetime, but at least try to serve the family and the devotee family around me in their endeavor to become sincere devotees. So just by that, Krishna may glance some
That's my hope too,
mercy
Mataji.
glance. That was really nice. And Prabhu, I want to ask you this question. I mean, it's a common thing, but just want to hear from you. You were mentioning how the scientists answer these questions, but they take Krishna out of the picture. But here in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the same questions, but Sutta Goswami, Ashokadeva Goswami, and in fact Prabhupada, they're actually answering in relation, keeping Krishna at the center of the picture. And I was thinking, why we have faith in these scientific answers? I'm just thinking about myself. But when it comes to spiritual masters, oh, but how can this be? Oh, but how can that be? That kind of a thing keeps coming. And one thing that's coming to me is we don't, as this verse say, we don't completely surrender our being to the scientific, thoughts or nature. We just study just for the sake of job, and after the job is done, we are done. But the spiritual topics or the philosophy is not like that. We are actually, ready to invest our whole being in that. So I was thinking that is why probably, we cannot have the similar kind of faith that we have for academics or science. I just want to hear, your thoughts or reflections on this.
Thank you for this question, Mataji. I think there are different grades of people that we see in this world. Some people, they are just like, they have no faith in spiritual life. They are, they don't even want to think in the direction of, okay, there is some spiritual reality. These are the kind of people who think that, everything that is known to us is known to us through science. But then science also commits so many mistakes. It's something that people don't realize. And in fact, they say that, okay, science accepting their mistakes is a great thing. It's a great thing, but it also shows that there is a hole in that knowledge, right? So that is our Arohana Pantha that we call. But when, in fact, we also belong to that category only in one sense. But then because, these great souls like Srila Prabhupada showered some mercy upon us, we are able to come to this understanding that, okay, there is something called spiritual life also. And it seems to answer all my questions, actually. But then it also is very important for us to understand that, it is, we have a conditioned mind, which actually always seeks for immediate pleasures. And these immediate pleasures are always provided by the science and technology, the modern science and technology. And that's why we have a tendency to accept that as a fact. Like, it is immediately giving me some pleasure, some sense gratification, some pleasure on the mental platform. Because, there is a sense of achievement also for these scientists when they create something new. Because of which we think that, okay, this is very easy to believe in. And the promise given by the spiritual life, or the results that we are promised to attain after practicing spiritual life, are more subtle, much more subtle. They are on the platform, they are on the plane of the soul, rather than those which are visible, advancements or achievements that we see in the field of science. And that's why it makes it very attractive to us that we go and accept what is there in the field of science, rather than accepting what is being spoken by the previous acharyas. So if I understood your question correctly, Mataji, you asked, like, there is a spiritual life in which we are investing so much. We want to live our life by following those principles. Whereas science is just a part of our job, but still we feel we feel that what the science gives is or better or easily understandable or relatable than what spiritual life gives. Is that right, Mataji? I answered in that.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, it's very helpful to see through that perspective. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, so
because we
that's what
don't
I try
see
to
that
answer.
immediate. It's like, keep questioning. Okay, holy name, chant once and that's it. You become happy. I'm not becoming happy. What is this saying? But it's more subtle. Yeah, it's
right,
more subtle.
It is very unperceivable, I would say, to our gross senses. We don't understand what we are accumulating. Actually, for us to understand that we have anarthas in our heart requires some amount of advancement in spiritual life. Otherwise, if we go and call a person on the road, say that you have anarthas in your heart, he said, "What crazy are you?" Right? That's what they feel like. I mean, that's we might have heard this several times also from from our preaching and all. But then the thing is, like the kind of spiritual accumulation or spiritual potency that we are accumulating through our daily sadhana, we can't even start to imagine how great it is. That requires some amount of spiritual advancement for us to at least start to conceive that, we have done a great progress chanting all these years. And that requires again the mercy of the spiritual master, mercy of Krishna and all that, for us to realize that there is a great amount of accumulation that we have done just by uttering the word Krishna once, right? So that is very difficult for us to conceive at our condition, but then definitely it is happening. We don't know. Just like I give this example, we have a great bank balance, but then we forgot the password or the key for the for our internet banking account. It doesn't mean that we don't have any money. We have millions and millions of every session of our chanting, every mantra that we chant, every name of Krishna that we take is making our bank balance, spiritual bank balance bigger and bigger and bigger, huge, just like a compound interest, they say, right? So it's happening, but we can't see because we don't have an access to that account yet. And the access to that account is our humility. When we become more and more humble, more and more, the more, like I like this word. Prabhupada uses this word in one of his books at the last page. I think it is Elevation to Krishna Consciousness. I don't remember. It's a small book of Prabhupada where he writes about one has to become a transparent via media of Krishna's mercy. So that's the word Prabhupada uses in that book. So when we, I mean, the more humble we become, the more Krishna chooses us to transfer his mercy through us to the world. And the more we will realize how fortunate we are. So at that time, we start relishing what is with us rather than what we are giving to others. Because we understand that I am not giving anything to anyone. It's Krishna who is using me as an instrument to give something to us. So that actually makes us more and more realized, Mataji. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, thank you so much, Prabhu. That's so beautiful and so hope-giving. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So it's 8:35. Anyone has any other? Yes, I see someone. Adhika Mohan Prabhu.
Yeah. So Prabhu, if time is there then. Prabhu, last you said that Miss Maharaj said you don't proud of your humility. Same way we can say don't proud to do your service that. And you say you are practicing. Can you just give highlight how we can do that?
Yeah, actually, this is something like this, Prabhu, because we are conditioned in a certain way by our dealings in this world, that we start thinking that, okay, if humility is what is required to progress in spiritual life, I will become more and more humble. But then in the path of becoming or trying to be more and more humble, we actually start gaining a kind of superiority over others in our own heart, thinking that, you see, he is not humble, he is not, I am more humble than him. Right? I am humbler than him. I am actually in a better position than him. Right? So that actually puts us in a very crazy situation, because on one hand we keep thinking that I am becoming more and more humble, but on the other hand what we are actually accumulating is pride rather than humility. In this case, instead of becoming proud of our external achievements, we are proud of our internal or spiritual achievements. That also, that's as again, I remember one of the statements of my spiritual master who says that, Jesus Christ said this, pride comes before fall. So I was hearing Radhanath Maharaj saying this sentence that, actually, as soon as the pride comes, you are fallen. What comes later is just a detail of how you fell down. Right. So basically we'll realize after much later that, that I have already fallen because I have pride in my heart. So we can become proud of several things. One of those things is humility. Right. So that's how it looks like a contradictory flow. But then that happens. I have seen in my own heart that, starting to find faults in others. See, I have practiced for 18 years, 20 years. Now this devotee came 10 years ago. He cannot be better than me anyways. So this actually makes me fallen more than, committing any sinful activity, actually, gross sinful activities. It's like that, Prabhu. Prabhu, you are on mute.
Yeah. So my question is that how we can remove that? You say you are doing some practice.
So one has to be very vigilant, Prabhu. One has to be very introspective. One has to start looking at one's own faults with a very in a great detail. It is always good for all of us to actually meditate for 5 minutes before we take rest in the evening. That, what all things that I have done. Is there any trace of pride in these activities? Is there any trace of seeking puja labha pratishtha? Is there any trace of something that that actually repels mercy of Krishna from our lives? So this kind of meditation, this kind of introspection over a period of time will help us a lot. That's my observation, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. So I'll stop here. If anyone has any further questions, you can please contact me on my WhatsApp. Thank you very much for paying your attention. I am so grateful to associate with all of you. You still consider me as your family. Although I came to India, I am living on the other side of the globe. I am so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you very much. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.